Good morning, everyone. This is a joint committee of the County Council, the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee, and the Education and Culture Committee, convening jointly on workforce development, as we do. And we are we're gathering today to talk about the American Job Center and continuing progress in that area of work that we need to do. So I will be co-chairing, I'm a co-chair of the committee. I'll chair the beginning of today's meeting, and then I'll need to go audio only, and I'll pass it to my co-chair, Councilmember Rice. So I'm not sure if my colleagues have any comments they'd like to make at the opening.
So just very briefly, Mr. Chair, and thank you. I really want to thank Mr. Featherstone for really hitting the ground running along with WorkSource Montgomery. We knew that there were some challenges with our American Job Center that primarily serves our folks that are at our Clarksburg Correctional Facility, as well as at our American Job Center sites around the county. And they are the first line of defense, I think, when it comes to ensuring that folks have stability as they try to move on to different career pathways. And so it is imperative for us as we look to reduce recidivism, especially for those returning citizens that are coming from our Clarksburg Correctional Facility, as well as those who are experiencing the challenges that we've seen with COVID that have put many people out of work. And that's where our American Job Centers are front and center in the communities, making sure that we can try and connect people to sustainable career pathways. And so from that perspective, I'm excited to hear about the progress that has been made. I know there have been a number of proposals that I'll have questions about where we are progress-wise with how those things are coming. But I do feel as though this is incredibly timely because as we look at the American Rescue Plan, as we look at those ARPA funds that are out there and the initiatives that are out there by the Biden-Harris administration to ensure that we're focusing on putting people back to work after the pandemic, our American Job Centers will play a key role in making that happen. So thank you, Mr. Chair. I turn it back to you, sir.
Thank you. And I'll just add for additional context, Councilmember Navarro, I'll turn to you here as well, that it took some time to get to this point where we're getting a presentation about forward motion and program development. I think workforce development has been in a bit of a crisis over the past couple of years as we've been struggling to get the executive branch to focus on this and to rebuild here and get moving. So we're glad that that WorkSource Montgomery has leadership with Mr. Featherstone, and we have undertaken a lot of work here at the council to focus the mission and provide the mandate that's needed to get moving faster. So I'm pleased we're at this point here today, and we'll learn more. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you to both chairs, and good morning to everyone. It's great to be here to receive this briefing. I know that in 2019, we definitely decided to come together and look at a lot of different options to align our workforce development work with what we envision for our county. And my colleagues and I, we did roll up our sleeves. That was the year that I was president, to make some changes to the law and to really seek some opportunities and options. And as it was stated, it's great that we are here today to hear about this particular component of workforce development. Also in 2019, we adopted an economic development platform. And one of the 4 pillars was, of course, workforce development. Basically, our task was to expand the workforce development delivery structure to meet the needs of the county's businesses and residents across the entire workforce development continuum. And that idea of a continuum is so important because this particular component of the American Job Center is part of that continuum. We understand and know that we have got to have a skilled workforce that would then feed into attracting companies, that then expands access to opportunities. And that is all part of our equity work, where we frame equity as a prosperity absolute state of being. That is what we are aiming for here in the county. And so as I listen to this briefing, I want to just point out also another aspect of very important framing that we need to keep in mind. The Council of Governments, we just had our retreat. I'm a member of that board. And one of the presentations we had was from a professor named Mauro Guillen from the Wharton School. He's now in Cambridge, and he has a book called 2030, which really examines all the trends that are happening, except that he says that if he had written this during the pandemic, he would have called it 2028, because the pandemic has been an accelerator to a lot of these particular trends. And so I am really focusing on understanding how we are positioning ourselves vis-a-vis 2028, because the work has to start now. One of the things that jumped at me when I was listening to this presentation was that he mentioned that about 100,000 Americans are going to be going back to school and they're going to have several careers because of just how things are shifting, and because we are living longer. There's not that sense of just one career. You go to college and that's it. We're going to be seeking different ways of sharpening our skills and shifting and pivoting in terms of careers. Of course, remote working is here to stay. So, how we address issues of workforce development has to incorporate this notion of remote working. And then the last thing I will point out that I know for me was like really validating, because it's something I've been talking about for a long time, is that more than half of the 15 to 35-year-olds by 2028, more than half are going to be people of color, BIPOC, right? So Black, Indigenous people of color. And it is known that in terms of trends, these are a population that marries younger, that has this purchasing power, where things like buying homes and cars, et cetera, that contributes greatly to the economy. Also, though, they use digital platforms more than any other group. So I share this because I am a firm believer that for us at the local level, these trends are important to consider when we are investing and when we are planning and when we are designing our workforce development strategies, our economic development strategies, land use, anything that has to do with access to technology, because the future is here and we can't run away from it unless we're willing to be left behind. So I, again, really appreciate all the work that has gone into getting us to this particular moment. And I hope that these trends are incorporated and that we work together to make sure that Montgomery County stays at the forefront of these amazing trends and changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from colleagues? Otherwise, we'll move to the council staff packet and we'll walk through the issues.
Yeah, I'd just briefly say a couple of words. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. As I always say, this is my favorite committee, the joint committee that I'm on, both, just to keep everyone happy. Good to see Mr. Featherstone and the team at WorkSource. Really excited, as colleagues have said, that we're moving to the substantive part of the conversation now. Like, what are we going to do? For so long, we've been talking about how do we get the right structure and fix things, and now we're having, I think this is one of the really exciting, with the new team in place, how we're going to move forward. And to Councilmember Navarro's point, I mean, at a critical point in history here where we need to have a full-throated approach to our workforce development and retraining, and really matching it to the needs of our communities. And so I know you'll get into this in the presentation, but I just ask that you've also focus on how the move away from the contractor system at the job center, right, which can be a bit cookie cutter depending on across the country, and how you're going to really take into account Montgomery County and our unique, economy and job seekers and the workforce that we have, and tie your programs, and realizing obviously with the pandemic as the backdrop and still present with us, how that's going to inform how you really do 2.0 on the job center. So I'm really excited to have this conversation and looking forward to partnering and supporting you all in the work. So thank you to the chairs.
Terrific, thank you. Okay, Gene, let's go into the packet.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. And I'll be brief because today is mostly about WorkSource and their efforts. As already alluded to by many of the council members, the committees have spent much time with WorkSource over the last couple of years. But one of the items that continued to come up was how the American Job Centers were operated. And as Mr. Featherstone came on and this WorkSource continues its efforts, they are going to begin assuming operations of American Job Centers. Previously, it was contracted through a third party, and we won't go through the details there, but obviously that created some disconnects in terms of trying to respond more rapidly to some of the items that both Ms. Navarro and Mr. Zwanda just were talking about within the community. And so with that, the packet is mostly introductory just to provide information about what WorkSource is doing. Certainly as the committees have conversation, we can always return in the fall for more detailed review of any of these items. And as noted by Ms. Navarro, this is only kind of one element of the continuum for workforce development, but an important one where many of our residents interact with the workforce development system, not only to get services and programs that they need, but hopefully to find jobs or to skill up into higher paying jobs. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the chairs and we can let WorkSource walk through their presentation and discussion for today.
Great, let's do that. Mr. Featherstone, welcome back.
Thank you and good morning. It's good to be with the committee again. Before I get started, I just want to recognize some of our team members. We have Sarah Vanderwerk, who is our new Director of Government Relations. She is Judy Jablow's successor, who has gone on to live the good life of retirement and traveling the world. So we're excited to have Sarah in this role. We have Camille McKenzie, who is our Director of Programs. And when we talk our American Job Center, Camille McKenzie and her direct report, Kirk Carrington, who's our Career Services Manager, who I hope many of you will be able to meet in the near future. They're the ones that actually make it happen. I get to sit here and kind of talk about the great work, but when the rubber meets the road, Camille's team is the one that makes it happen. And then last but not least, we have John Hattery, our Director of Strategic Initiatives on the line as well. John joined us in April, and it helps out with a lot of organizational and program development related initiatives that we'll talk about, I'm sure, today and in the near future. So I guess, just starting out, I want to, reflect on 21 just a bit. I'm super proud of the work that WorkSource Montgomery and our partners have been able to do over the past year. And we understand that for all of the momentum that's been gained, that the work is not behind us, it's in front of us. But just wanted to kind of reflect on a few key highlights from this past year. Number one, I'm super proud to say that we have made all of our Title I transitions. So as of July 1, WorkSource Montgomery is operating our American Job Center and our adult and dislocated worker programs. We are still outsourcing our youth contracts to third parties. We are in the process of onboarding 3 outstanding contractors, Latin American Youth Center, Identity, and Eckerd Connects. I think with those 3 youth providers, with their expertise and their knowledge of our local area, we think that our youth programming will definitely go to the next level with their onboarding. So we're excited that we're in the midst of their ramping up.
Mr. Featherstone, I just want to pause you there and just express appreciation to Councilmember Rice. He grabbed a hold of this thing and made sure that the American Job Center did not fall through the cracks in our Clarksburg facility. And it means so much to so many lives, and it wouldn't happen without you. So thank you. Please continue.
Yes, thank you. And also, we were able to really on the fly put together our local and regional plans. Our regional plan is posted on our website, and it's approved by Maryland Department of Labor. Our local plan is under review by the Department of Labor as well, and we expect to receive approval in the coming weeks. So, once that plan is approved, it'll also be posted on our website, so you can read about our strategy moving forward for the next few years in our workforce system. And with these things, especially us taking on our Title I programming, we've had to do a lot of organizational restructuring, and it's a long conversation, so I'll keep it to the highlights. We've gone from a staff of 8 to 31 in a short period of time. So as of July 1, we were able to fill 31 of the 33 FTE positions that we were looking to fill so that we could execute our Title I adult and dislocated worker program. So we're excited about that. We also spent a lot of time with elected officials around the state talking about how Relief Act funds and ARPA funds could be used at a local workforce development level. We're happy that we were able to secure a significant amount of funding to pass through to help our residents and businesses out moving forward in our recovery efforts. And I think last but not least, one of the things I'm most proud of is that we've, I think, re-engaged our community, whether it's our faith-based or community-based organizations, government organizations. We meet bi-weekly. Councilmember Rice with Director Talley and her team to discuss the reopening of our job center behind the walls. And I think that, we're still in the process of restoring faith in WorkSource Montgomery and our workforce development system. But we've been able to build on partnerships that were going well, and I think start anew with some of our partners where it may have been a little rocky. And I'm really proud of that effort that our entire team has taken to improve relationships and re-engage our workforce system as a whole. And as I said, the work is not behind us; it's in front of us. We have a lot of key objectives in 22. Number one, our American Job Centers are open. And happy to report that since we opened on August 6th, we've seen 800 plus unique individuals come through our doors. And kudos to WorkSource Montgomery, Maryland Department of Labor, and our other partners, because it's been a group effort with all of our American Job Center partners to receive those customers and serve them in the manner that they should be. We want to make a lot of enhancements moving forward. We will be announcing that our American Job Center in Wheaton will be certified as a financial empowerment center in partnership with the United Way in the coming months. So looking forward to inviting everyone on the council to a ribbon cutting with the United Way. And what that means is that we don't have to beg and borrow for someone to come and offer financial literacy services to our customers. We'll have somebody in our office 5 days a week, 40 hours per week, offering group and individual financial counseling. And when we get our mobile unit, they'll take their show on the road. And if somebody requests an offsite workshop, they'll be available to offer those services offsite as well. So, we think that's a huge addition or improvement to our American Job Center. Enhanced data tracking and reporting. We have some work to do when it comes to tracking our data. We have onboarded an ancillary management information system so we can track our non-WIOA programs and be able to report out to both of our boards and the council and other stakeholders the good work that all of our partners are doing. We've also onboarded a new performance management dashboard so we can report out in pretty charts and things like that everybody loves to look at. System building is something that we're placing an emphasis on in the near future as well. And it looks, we'll do some system building in a variety of ways. Number one, to build a system, we have to know who makes up the system. And to that end, we are engaged in an asset mapping project right now with a third party, where we are going to take inventory on who's providing workforce and training services and to what population, who the funding sources are, how to access those services and so on. So we can organize that information into a central communication hub and mobile application that's accessible to our job seekers, as well as on the back end to all of our workforce system partners to be able to communicate and share information. So that's just one example of some system building that we're doing. Community engagement is also a point of emphasis. We have a community impact manager, and his job is to kind of be everywhere all the time. He's out in the community working with our community-based and faith-based organizations, just making sure that in every pocket of the county and with every different organization and entity, that folks are aware of our services and can access our services seamlessly. And once we receive our mobile unit at the end of this year, our community impact manager and coordinator we'll work with our partners to make sure that that mobile unit is deployed 5 days a week at minimum, where services are most needed. And then recovery programming. I'm sure we'll get a chance to talk about what we're doing with our ARPA and WIOA and county funds. But we're looking forward to rolling out our sector strategy model, being able to provide training to any resident of Montgomery County that needs training, whether it's WIOA, ARPA, or funded through any other source. We don't want to turn anybody away who needs training to enhance their economic status. Then we'll be doing a lot of exciting things with our businesses, some rapid reemployment grants. We've really ponied up when it comes to our wage subsidies, and as well as a whole host of other business services that we'll be offering. So I could literally sit here for hours and talk about some of the planning that we've done and our plans for the next year, but I'll pause for any questions or comments that the committee may have.
Terrific. Councilmember Navarro has a question, and then, as I mentioned, I'll go to audio only, and the gavel passes to Councilmember Rice.
Thank you. So as we go through the rest of the presentation, if you could point out what you've done to position these particular centers and the services to make sure that they are culturally and linguistically proficient. When you describe the center in Wheaton, which is so exciting, as you know, Wheaton is the epicenter of the Latino community. So making sure that given our population demographics, making sure that they're culturally and linguistically proficient, that capacity is there from staff is really important. So if you can, as we go through the presentation, just refer to the capacity specifically. How many bilingual staff do you have? What are you doing to make sure that that type of resource is available?
Sure. I think first and foremost, as we upskill, we were really mindful of having a diverse workforce. And I'm proud to say that our 31 team members at this point, you speak a total of 6 languages. So we have a super diverse team. We have career advisors who are really the drivers of all of our programs, who work hand in glove with our customers that speak the majority of those languages. So we do have bilingual staff that will be stationed in Wheaton and Germantown, as well as the center behind the walls with DOCR once that center reopens. So we're able to reach and serve anyone who comes through our doors, and I'm really proud of that. And our leadership team, when you look at when you go to our website in the coming weeks, when we update it, you'll see a diverse team from all different backgrounds and to speak different languages as well. So I'm proud of us being able to put together a diverse team that looks like our county, that can serve our county, so we don't always have to pick up a phone and dial the language line, which is effective, but doesn't always bode well for developing rapport and really getting down to business. We also have bilingual instructors as well. Our entire communications team is bilingual also. So all the collateral that we will publish will be in English and Spanish, and we'll utilize technology and resources to publish it in other languages as well as needed. So I think it started first and foremost with making sure that our team members look like Montgomery County and spoke the languages that are spoken here in our county. And I think that was our baseline to making sure that we could offer services in an equitable manner.
Thank you. I really appreciate that response. It is central to everything that we do, and especially for this kind of work. So I do appreciate the very strategic effort to ensure that our services are provided by people that reflect the community. It was actually one of the areas that needed to be improved from the previous efforts. So I appreciate the fact that you have prioritized that as well.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Navarro. Mr. Featherstone, I know that with DOCR, we have not got that up and running yet, and that will be the case shortly. But I do want to make sure that before we do open those doors, that we've availed ourselves of some of the best practices and procedures. And so I'll just ask you, I know that Ms. Donna Rojas, who used to be employed at DOCR, now works with the state, had put forth a great proposal that your predecessor was looking at trying to implement, which was a behind the bars or beyond the bars implementation program about engaging those who have entered into our correctional facilities and how we can best try and promote them getting to a better place when it comes to better choices. So those mental health supports, as well as the job component as well. And just wanted to check and see if you had any update as to where we are in the progress of adopting some of that sort of methodology as a part of the AJC at Clarksburg.
Sure. So we'll have to we'll absolutely look into that immediately after this session and connecting with Ms. Rojas. But just as a quick update on our progress to this point, we do meet with Director Talley biweekly, and we have we expect to reopen the center in the near future, working with small groups, hoping for at some point early fall, really late summer for a reopening of the job center at the correctional facility. We are working through the job descriptions at this point. We have outlined kind of a joint onboarding process where DOCR staff are able to provide feedback and provide input on the staff that we hire to make sure that it's a good fit. We have developed a model for the services that we'll be offering, and it's fluid. And we'll definitely look into those best practices and see how we can edify that model. But we have onboarded a system called Metrics Learning, which is an LMS, which really fits what we want to accomplish behind the walls, where you can do some assessment, you can chart a course, and then you can actually get your training, whether you need assistance with learning how to turn on a computer, or whether you need professional development, or whether you want to get straight to learning how to code and do learn different IT skills, whether you be with us for 2 days at a certain level, or you be with us in that program for 3 months. It's a system that will allow our staff to build a customized plan for our learners behind the wall. And it's exciting because as long as Worksource Montgomery has the license, then the individuals who have the plans and the accounts created will have access to those accounts for life, or for the term of our license with the provider. So they can engage in lifelong learning throughout this system. And we're also working with DOCR to create a reentry program within our American Job Center, a separate program funded by ARPA, where we will have a career advisor, a business service consultant, as well as a constructor, 3 FTEs who are devoted to individuals returning home, or folks who have already returned home or been home for some time, that are returning citizens. So we're excited about starting that program behind the wall again, and then having a clean handoff to a niche program that focuses on those individuals once they are released. So John Hatter's been working closely with that group as well. So John, feel free to jump in if I've missed anything.
Thank you, Anthony. No, I don't think you missed much of anything. I will also add, though, in an effort to re-strengthen the partnership with DOCR, understanding that even in the context of COVID, before we were going to be able to restart the satellite AJC, we thought it was important to make sure that we were able to provide services to returning citizens who are being released, in this interim between the satellite AJC reopening now. And so we have brought on board a very experienced business services representative. DOCR staff and Worksource Montgomery staff are working together to solidify a referral process. So, we are going to be in a position, and we're going to be serving returning citizens prior to the reopening of the AJC, which is sort of dependent on some of the COVID-related things that corrections environments are dealing with. And so we're making great progress, I think, on the reopening. In the meantime, we're going to be providing services to referrals from who are being released. And then from a more strategic standpoint, we've had additional conversations with the OCR staff and others. And that was the impetus for the decision to design a reentry program embedded in the AJC, which will be largely funded through ARP funds.
So that's great to hear. Let me just say that there's so much associated with what we want to do for those citizens that are reentering, and understanding that the jobs of just yesterday are not the jobs of tomorrow. And so we have to be very intentional about setting folks up for success, not setting them up for re-entering into our facility for that sort of recidivism that we unfortunately see often. And so I know that your support when it came to coding and those kinds of things are really the future for how we do things. I always share that my wife owns a salon in downtown Bethesda, and so there are successful mechanisms with cutting hair and doing those kinds of things. There's successful mechanisms that are there when it comes to automotive, but we shouldn't just restrict people to those kinds of things, right? There's so many more opportunities that are out there. I will just say that it is very interesting that of all of the professions, I will just give a nod, to my wife and to the cosmetology industry. They were one of the first essential businesses that got brought back during COVID, primarily because of service to the military and others who needed to have their haircut for various reasons. And so they were one of the first businesses to be established as essential outside of grocery stores and things of that nature. But so it is a sustainable career pathway, I'll say that. But there's so much more that we can give to folks as opportunities. And so we need to be on the front lines of that innovation in terms of really giving people as many options as possible to link them up, because a person who comes out with some experience in one of those career pathways is very unlikely to then think that, well, the only way I'm going to put food on my table is having to commit some sort of crime or whatever the case may be. And so we're giving folks options that are really changing their lives and changing their trajectory by doing this. And so that's why these strategic partnerships matter so much. I want to thank Mr. Smith for sending that information to WorkSource again, so that they have that proposal from Ms. Rojas, because I think that a lot of it is entailed and ingrained in that proposal. And obviously, I'm not asking for you to follow it by the letter, but certainly the methodology and approach and the spirit of what it is that we're trying to achieve is something that you've already espoused in terms of your comments from both of you. So I appreciate that. Let me turn to Councilmember Jawando.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Appreciate the updates, and really happy to hear about the additional hires and staffing up, and look forward to meeting some of these folks at some point. I think, Mr. Featherstone, we've talked about, I used to work at the Wheaton Job Center and was doing Summarize, so I want to go over there and see how everyone's doing and meet people, obviously safe and socially distanced and masked and all appropriate, but really happy to hear that. Couple questions. Councilman Rice, I'm so glad thankful for his work, and he knows I was right there with him on the DOCR and the whole WorkSource issue. The whole committee, the whole joint committee was. And I actually spoke to Director Talley this week on another issue, and she did mention that you all, she was very optimistic about the way you're moving forward. And it's great to hear that in the coming months, weeks, we'll be able to get that program up and running. You mentioned something in here about taking services directly to folks in this community outreach member in the mobile unit. And you cited, which I think is a great idea, particularly in COVID and transportation issues. I think it's even more important that we go to communities. Can you talk about, you said that's going to start in 2022, and there's a community services manager. Is that person hired? Is that just a delay of getting the vehicle together? What's the reasoning that that's going to start? And then how you envision that working and what the capacity of that will be?
Sure. So our community impact manager, James LeBlanc, has been hired. He started on roughly around July the 6th, and he's already making inroads with various throughout the county. Huge United Method Church and United Methodist Church in Silver Spring, nonprofit Montgomery, and their members, and so on. So he's already hit the ground running. Our mobile unit, we'd love to have it, sooner, but the supply chain across many industries is kind of wacky right now, and it took longer to get the chassis and the chips for the computers and so on, which delayed production. We did go to Ohio. Thank you to Sarah. We made a late night flight and were able to pick out the colors and the design and so on for the mobile unit. So we were actually able to see it, in real time in 3D last week. So we expect to still get it at the end of this year, but that could still ebb and flow just because of the supply chain with the parts that are necessary. As far as our planning, we want to pull together an advisory group to help develop the strategy for the mobile unit. We'll work with Elijah Wheeler over at the Collaboration Council. We'll work with some of our providers, Latin American Youth Center and Identity as well as our regional directors and individuals from the community-based organization network as well to help inform the strategy on how we'll use the mobile unit. We'll come up with or deploy an electronic application system or request system where if you do want to utilize or have the mobile unit come to your event, your community, or whatever the case is, it'll be a seamless process to request for the unit to make its way to you. And we want to make sure that we're partnering with the housing authority in Montgomery County as well. I forget the gentleman's name, but he is the data guy, for lack of better terms, from Montgomery County, and we're working with him to make sure we understand where the pockets of poverty are in our county as well, because we want to make sure that we avail the unit to certain housing authorities and whatnot in communities in those areas as well. So we have a lot to still develop as far as our planning, but we don't want to do the planning in a vacuum. We plan on putting in an advisory group together to help us come up with those plans on how we use the unit.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. And that kind of leads to my next question and suggestion. And I looked through the document and I didn't see any reference to this, but I know you all have been involved in some capacities with the hubs. And the consolidation hubs that we've set up, which are now going to be a part of what we do going forward, which is a great, one of the great silver linings out of this pandemic. And, all of those hubs should be on that advisory committee. You all should have a presence at those, as they continue their services. So, and obviously I'm sure you're talking to Mark Hodge at HHS and the folks that are running that. But I think there's a really interesting nexus, not just for the mobile unit, but for all the work you do to link up and have a plan of action and interaction with those hubs. I think that needs to be kind of really fleshed out. And it's not just your services, but your services are particularly important. And I know I had seen presence and there's been flyers and stuff, and it's kind of been light touch stuff that has happened up to this point because of the pressures of the pandemic. But as we move forward, I think there can be a more robust role, and would just encourage you all to think about that and maybe come back, in the fall, and that's something that can be fleshed out a little more. And you can add, you say, I see nodding, you agree with it, but anything that have you been in touch with them at all at this point?
So I absolutely agree with that, and I'm taking notes as you were speaking. I know we are in talks to have one of our staff situated at the hub located in Germantown, and I forget the gentleman's name that we're in contact with. So we will have our community impact coordinator stationed there. So it should create some seamless communication and partnership with the organizations at that location. We're also working with the hub that's been placed in the Germantown Up County Regional Services Center. So we're working on a Food Plus model as well. So their customers coming to get their services and food will walk right over into the AJC and receive workforce services, and vice versa. So we've done a little bit of planning, but I think it needs to get a little deeper. But we'll absolutely follow up and follow through on those comments.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we just need to have a plan for all of them, right? In the East Cat, in every. It's great that you've already started with the Germantown, but there's need, and where all those hubs are, there's going to be need, and it's going to be a little different, and there needs to be a schedule. And so I would just encourage, and we're at a great time. We just confirmed our new regional service directors yesterday. So I think it's just a great time to flesh that out. So awesome. Well, I could keep going, but I'm really excited about the staff and what they're doing, and really happy to hear about the new youth program contractors. I think that has been a point of really we've underperformed in that area, and the folks that you've brought on are proven partners. So we're really, really excited about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Juando. And I just want to comment that I couldn't agree with you more about that youth aspect. My colleagues will remember that was one of the concerns I had about us and the $15 minimum wage and about youth employment. Making sure that our youth weren't going to be priced out of the market by increasing the minimum wage without having them have access to some of these jobs. And so from that perspective, I think, again, all the work that we can do to continue to promote opportunities for our young people, those are the ones who are breaking into the cars. Those are the ones who are committing the petty crimes. And then we get, the challenges that we do as a result. And so if we can provide them with opportunities so that they can put some dollars in their pocket to help contribute to their household income, and at the same time, keep them on the straight and narrow and out of our criminal justice system, it's a win-win all around for us. So that's an incredibly important point. Before I turn to Councilmember Navarro, I just wanted to say one thing very quickly. Mr. Featherstone, when you talk about your mobile, things like our back to school fair that will be done by MCPS. We actually already partnered with Aetna CVS Health to do testing, COVID testing, as well as COVID vaccinations. And so it would also be great because you've got an audience there of folks who are oftentimes underemployed. The reason why you go to the back to school fair is because oftentimes you can't afford some of the supplies for your children. And so you get all of this stuff that is going to be free, whether it's free backpacks, other kinds of things to help with your children. And so that's the population, right? That's our target population in terms of getting them on a pathway to more sustainable jobs that will help to support their families. And so I encourage you to seek out. So what Councilmember Juando is talking about in terms of really looking at ways to partner with the community. We have our Ag Fair that's coming up, which would be another great opportunity to be there and outreach to the community and showcase about what WorkSource Montgomery is and what it can do for folks. I go to the fair every single year, so I know the people that are there. Again, so our target audience is certainly there and addressed. We've got a lot of young people that are there, so that'd be great to have our youth partners that would be there representing WorkSource Montgomery. So there's just a lot of opportunities there. I just didn't want to lose the momentum from what Councilmember Juando was talking about and highlighting that before I turn to Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Navarro.
Yeah, thank you. No doubt that the youth component is definitely something that we have had lots of discussions in different committees, and whatever we can do to continue to strengthen that. I think that when you look at other jurisdictions surrounding us, they have a much more robust youth employment program, and that is sort of like one of the things that we aspire to do, is to get to that point. But just also following up on that conversation regarding the opportunities for partnerships, again, another piece that we continue to drive home. We do have a lot of assets already out there, and through the pandemic, we were able to leverage many of those to then put forth some targeted initiatives addressing the issues of testing and vaccinations. But really, those same types of partners and that same strategy, which really is to bring together a lot of these assets, and truly leveraging the community leadership that really understands the same populations that we're trying to serve is definitely something that would be so, useful for you. You've mentioned identity, you've mentioned some other partners, but I do believe that things like the way the hubs came about, things like our COVID-19 Latino and Black targeted initiatives, Por Nuestra Salud y Bienestar, the African American Health Program Initiative, that same template would be super, super useful for what you're doing. Regional services centers have been mentioned already. That's another super important place to go. So I think in many ways, if you do look at those exact initiatives and just reaching out to them, Street Outreach Network, I mean, they're there with the community at a grassroots level. Our community partnerships folks, both in the government and MCPS, that is, I think, our greatest strength is that we have so many extraordinary partnerships working out there that understand the community and that also have the trust of the community. A lot of times people, may not really even know or wonder if they should even make an effort to access these services. But these partners have proven, and I always say, to me, what Salud y Bienestar COVID-19 initiative was able to achieve, which is that Latino residents now have a higher vaccination rates. There are white residents. It's truly a testament for what can happen on so many other policy areas. And so I encourage you to make a list of these, kinds of initiatives and folks, and just literally just reach out and engage and ask, will you be willing to do some of the outreach for us in terms of, hey, here's our, we have the flyers, we have the information, this is the contact person, etc. That I think would be super, super useful. Somebody like Luis Cardona is just out there all the time. And he has been the one that for years has said to me, and I know many of my colleagues, this notion of, a job. That's what our young people need. They just need a job. So that's the type of thing that I believe we need to leverage. And so I just wanted to also chime in and add my voice to put forth some of those other components that are already out there, where they're doing the work and easy to access. And I know they would be so excited to partner with you as well.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Navarro, and a lot of the initiatives and that you just mentioned I was not aware of. So we'll make sure that we follow up on those, and we continue to kind of do our inventory and branch out to folks to make sure that we're partnering with the right people at the right time in the right places. So I appreciate those recommendations.
And if I could just say,
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to underscore how important this is, Mr. Featherstone, because one of the things that was unfortunately lost in Worksession in the past was the strain on these partnerships and these relationships, and that's something we constantly heard, and we can't do it without them. So I'm really glad that Councilmember Navarro followed up and listed even more, and we're happy to work really closely with you, our staffs, to make sure that we warm hand off you, and to the extent so that there can be the right connections. And you're already on the right track. You mentioned Elijah, you mentioned some others, and you sit down with someone like Elijah, he could map out a lot of the system for you too. But I just think that is a critical component. And if we're going to be successful, if you're going to be successful, there's some work to do too. It's not only important, but there's some work to do to rebuild that trust with those partners. And so it's a twofer, and I just wanted to underscore it. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Featherstone, look, Councilmember Navarro has been doing this for over 2 decades between her nonprofit work and being in elected office. For myself, same sort of thing, almost 2 decades. Councilmember Joando's been doing this a long time. You're new to this, right? How long have you been on the job now?
I think we're at 6 months on ahead at this point.
There you go. And so a lot of this is you learning. So there's nothing wrong with you not knowing. And so I'm happy to hear you say that, because oftentimes we get from directors, we get from folks that'll be like, oh yeah, and we'll follow up on that. And don't acknowledge the fact, I just didn't know that, but I'm learning today. And that's the thing that I like about your leadership style is is that you're a doer, but you also can say, listen, I didn't know that, but I'm going to follow up and try and make that happen. And then you actually do it. And that's one of the things that I think was important. I was actually back channeling someone and was just talking about the fact of how you filled positions. Maybe we as a county need to take a lead from how you've been successful at filling positions. We seem to have a challenge when it comes to filling our positions in the county. So I'm channeling Councilmember Friedson here, who oftentimes is talking with our executive leadership about our lack of ability to fill positions. Maybe we need to find out what you're doing and get that secret sauce. But let me just say again, before I turn it back to you, that this is a critical moment for us. As you've heard from Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Juando, Chair Reamer before, and I know Councilmember Friedson feels the exact same way. This is an important thing that we get right. The partnerships and the folks that are there who are doing this work, who can help you in your efforts to do the outreach, but also make these things come to fruition, are robust. We've invested lots of money and lots of time in making them happen. And so having that coordination is going to be key to your success and to our success as a whole. And so really just appreciative of your openness, your continued work in reaching out to folks and making sure that we can hone in more in terms of really highlighting and accentuating the opportunities that come out of working together with some of these entities. So thank you for that. So I'll turn it back to you. We interrupted. You had paused, and I know you had some more stuff to present. So I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Featherstone.
Well, I think that was that was the kind of the gist of our, looking back and looking ahead what our measures were. I do want to mention a couple of other AJC enhancements that we're working on. We are working with the Capital Area Food Bank to hopefully incorporate them as a partner as well. We're not a social service agency, but everyone has to eat. So we want to make sure that our customers who walk through our doors are able to receive, those food plus workforce development plus services. So we're excited about that. And then we also have something that we think is innovative. Some people call it crazy. So there's kind of different perspectives on it. But when our young folks do assessments, they usually sit behind a computer and they go through the process and then they figure out what they want to do with their life, their career path, and so on. So we thought that it would be a great idea to be able to couple that with virtual reality. So if you sit behind a computer and do your assessment, you're able to go to our virtual reality lab and kind of see what it's like to be a carpenter, see what it's like to be a in the hospitality industry, see what it's like to be a nurse or whatever the case may be. So we will be deploying a virtual reality lab in our Wheaton American Job Center right around October 1. So we're excited about that, and we're working with our youth partners and Collaboration Council to make sure that those services are available to everyone, but specifically our young workers in the county. So I think those are two enhancements that we are looking forward to. We think there will be many more enhancements that we don't have on our radar now, but we'll discover as we get smarter, day by day, and absolutely, looking forward to welcoming everybody on the council to the AJC and working with you on ways that we can kind of continually, enhance our services, whether it's from a physical standpoint, what you see, feel, smell, and hear when you walk into the center, customer service, programs and resources, and so on. So I'll just close with that. Definitely, John, Sarah, and Camille, I don't want to, dominate the time because you all have definitely, been doing a whole lot of work, behind the scenes, doing all the work behind the scenes. So, feel free to add on to anything I've said.
So let me give an opportunity for John, Sarah, Camille, and then I've got Chair Reamer and then Councilmember Juanda. All right, hearing none. All right, I'll turn to Chair Reamer.
Hello, thank you.
great conversation. I guess I just wanted to add to this that it was necessary for all of us to light a fire, to shake things up and get some change. I also think that the presentation today and the progress that's been made, the ability to be already implementing critical reforms is testament to the value of what we had in place and the infrastructure and the organizational capacity that was there. So we needed to change. At the same time, I think moving forward with WorkSource as the partner was really important. I don't know that we would be able to be talking about forward progress today, had we not ultimately decided to continue forward with WorkSource as our entity. At the same time, again, it was crucial to stop everything and shake things up. So that has both. We've got a win-win here, but that has been a challenging aspect of the conversation. And I'm just delighted to see where we're at today, and I thank everyone for kind of continuing to hang together. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Jawanda.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I did want to underscore and allow you to say something about this, Mr. Featherstone, or your team. One of the big issues, part of the shaking up, and I'll count former Montgomery College President Dr. Pollard called this my Perry Mason moment. But when I brought out the data from the State Department of Labor and how just horrible it was that we had not met our marks over multiple reporting periods and had not followed up on information. And one of the things as I was reading through your packet yesterday is I was just really happy to see, and I've talked to you about this, Mr. Featherstone, I think that's why you were the right person for the job, is that compliance aspect of reporting the data of what we've done and holding ourselves accountable to that so we can make operational changes and improvements. And you talk a little bit in here, and I want to allow you to talk a little bit about the data system that you're bringing on board that's going to allow you to report in real time to all partners, and just wanted to have you expand on that in part, and then and ask when we're going to get that first kind of update when that's up and running.
Sure. So I guess I'd like to start with our personnel. We've we've invested heavily into an administrative team, or as we call it, our performance and data department. So thank you to the council because it's funded with our county funds. So we have a performance and data manager, and she is someone who comes to us with a lot of experience in workforce development, and specifically here in the state of Maryland with our state management information system, Maryland Workforce Exchange. We also have a full-time quality assurance coordinator. We have an intake coordinator to make sure that we have the right controls in place, as far as folks who are getting into our federal WIOA program. So we've ensured that we have the infrastructure to manage all of our programs from a data integrity standpoint, so that whether it be good or bad, we always plan for the good, but we can stand on any number that we report as being 100% accurate with the highest level of integrity. We have purchased a system called Career Edge. And we know that we use our Maryland Workforce Exchange system for our WIOA programming, but we have a lot of other programs outside of WIOA that in the past we've used Google spreadsheets and other mechanisms to track and monitor program performance. But with the Career Edge system, among other things that it does, it will allow us to track and manage customer progress in any non-WIOA programming or program that we offer. So with this, we'll be able to have a more robust set of data reporting, and we'll be able to tell or ascertain a more detailed story on the progress of each and every one of our customers, because Case Notes is a part of the system. And this system does more than just case management CRM. It also has an employer portal, which will help us coordinate our business services efforts. We now have a team of 5 business service consultants. It also has a toolkit for professional development. It also allows us to track certain funds related to training and employer subsidies and so on. So overall, it streamlines and I think makes our data tracking process more effective for all of our different programs that we'll offer. We are in the final stages of developing the system with our providers. So we expect that it will be live at the latest by October 1. And we think that by December 31st, we'll have our first set of numbers to report out for the second quarter of this program year. And then we also have the performance management dashboard, in which we'll transpose the information from Career Edge and Maryland Workforce Exchange into charts and graphs and things like that, so that we can share with all of our stakeholders throughout the county. So these are things that we're excited about. And shout out to Camille and John. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes and helping our provider build out a system that's customized for the work that we're trying to do here in Montgomery County.
I mean, I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear that, and very excited. And I'm sure Mr. Smith on our team, who has to compile the things, is also very excited that he'll have. So really appreciate Ms. McKenzie and Mr. Hattery and your whole team. Cannot wait to see that information, and really glad that you've taken those steps to shore that up. So data doesn't always get focused on, but I wanted to bring that point up. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilmember Joannou. Councilmember Navarro.
Thank you. Let me just say that as far as I'm concerned, for me, the biggest concerns with the previous operations was that, in a nutshell, I did not think that it was aligned with the county's needs. I mean, pure and simple. It didn't seem to be matching the needs of the county, the profile of the county, the demographics, and all of that. And so that there was a fundamental mismatch that it's very, very refreshing to hear this whole entire update, because this definitely, I believe, is going in the right direction. So congratulations to the entire team for doing this. I wanted to also give a little more emphasis to the notion of virtual reality and how you're incorporating that with the young people. So very important. I've seen sort of the light bulb that goes off with young people, especially when they're able to visualize what is possible. So how we begin to position in front of them the various opportunities that exist already in the county or that are coming up. And I know I've always shared how in one of our Code for Second Language efforts, we had an initiative at Springbrook High School. And at that time, we had just approved the Viva White Oak plan. And so I invited the folks from that plan to just show the renderings and to make that connection with students that, hey, there is this project in the future that will bring possibly these types of jobs. You could begin to train right now to access that. And so here in the county, we have so many examples of that. And to the extent that you are able to make those connections so that it becomes tangible, because I feel like, and we all know this, I mean, the way that especially young people consume information, so different, the way that we were raised to consume information, and we have to be able to catch their attention and to make it tangible. So really, really interested in how you will be utilizing virtual reality and other types of technologies to drive that point home, and can't wait to hear in your updates how that's going and where you think you may want to take that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be sure to keep everyone apprised on our progress on that front. And then, if you ever want to come over and put the Oculus headsets on yourself and kind of experience what our young folks will experience on a VR standpoint, the invite has been extended.
That would be super cool. And to the extent that you also can, incorporate some of the tangible projects that are taking place in the county, right? Some of the initiatives that are already underway to make it tangible for students. So, if there is a particular effort or an initiative, whether it would be in life science, biotech, or anything of that nature, it would be awesome for them to be able to see that even right here, right? And it's part of that continuum. That perhaps you can start training in a certain skill set that will get your foot in the door, but then you can continue to develop that. So you can aspire to some, other kinds of promotions, et cetera. I think that piece is also super important, especially when when we're talking about our young people who may not be exposed to those opportunities as much, connecting with the school system or with Montgomery College, USG, et cetera, and then with some of these initiatives, I think would be really cool.
Absolutely. I would, just add to that, for our construction industry, we plan to, couple the VR career exploration with on-the-job training with some of our employer partners. We're also in conversation with or about the Purple Line as well, and the construction that's going on there. So we'd like to provide those opportunities. Just trades is just one example where you can do your VR career exploration, you can do your on-the-job training with one of our employer partners, and hopefully matriculate into a registered apprenticeship, which is always the goal, which leads to a journeyman's license in whatever trade you choose to go into.
That's super exciting, and I'll just close by saying that I know that we also have different companies, smaller companies in the county that are in the IT space, and I think that seeking out those kinds of partnerships as well, so that we are exposing our young people to some of these important trades, of course, but also ensuring that they are getting the foot in the door into some of these IT types of opportunities, because we see the trends and we see where they're going. And we always talk about how all of these young people are connected to their device, they use it, they're so, it's very intuitive, of course, because they're technology natives. And so to the extent that we can also find opportunities in those fields, especially for our low income young people who may not be naturally inclined to access that, that is, that's a very exciting space to go into. So to the extent that we can all work together to find those opportunities, I think that would also be amazing, and it would be amazing for our companies that want to come to Montgomery County and can be assured that we are preparing a pipeline for qualified and ready to go workers.
So thank you very much, Councilmember Navarro. I very rarely enact chair privilege, but I'm going to do it in this case. I need first dibs at the Oculus. During the pandemic.
All right, fine.
Well, Chair Rice, can I offer a friendly amendment that we take a joint committee field trip to the,
there you go.
Okay. How about we do that? And you can be first in the line when we do that.
I'll second that recommendation, and I would just point
whatever happened to ladies first?
University of Catholic College Park. Just want to throw
That's right. That's right.
Whatever happened to ladies first?
That's a good point.
I mean, so we're going to have a little conversation about that later on.
Councilmember Navarro, with gender equity, I mean, I'm just playing.
Let's not go there.
Right? No. No, but in all seriousness, no, and Andrew brings about a great point too. That's really cool. Is Oculus, founded by a University of Maryland grad. I mean, this is, when we highlight some of those things, but that's also something that we could use, right? In saying that, look, the very technology that you're utilizing in this space was designed by someone who sat where you sat, right? Who came through the schools that you came through. And so there's no limitations to what it is that you can create. And so even as you're looking at this VR headset to look at, different career pathways, understand the technology that was created to look at the career pathways was created by someone who's just like you, right? Who has that same sort of ability to change the world. And when you do things like that, I think to Councilmember Navarro's point, it's so much more than just about the experience. It really is truly about opening their eyes and expanding their horizons to so many other things that are out there. Because a lot of folks wouldn't have had, any experience with a VR headset ever in their lives, if not for what they're going to experience in Wheaton. That says something, just that alone, right? So the access to that technology and having the ability to see it and then start to understand, well, how does it work? Wow, how does this do this? And then those questions that start to develop are things that will possibly send someone down that career pathway that gets to where I went when it comes to computer science and doing that. I mean, just from those simple questions about how does this work, as opposed to the actual career that you're highlighting inside, the VR world that they're experiencing. So again, there's just so many great things that come out of this that it's really, really cool. It's the reason why we have the coding hub that'll be open this fall. And so there will continue to be opportunities for us to create that level of expansion, opportunity for us to continue to promote ways in which we have different career pathways for our residents here in Montgomery County. I just want to close with one thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, Councilmember Navarro, please.
No, I thought you were finished. I just wanted to make sure that for the record, everybody understood that Councilmember Rice was just joking because it's the only woman on the council.
Yes.
The issue of gender equity is kind of it's a joke.
It's an inside joke. Yes.
It's an inside joke because there's obviously no gender equity on the county council.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Absolutely. So one of the things that I want to close with is just that, again, Mr. Featherstone, in the short time frame, you've righted the ship in terms of where WorkSource Montgomery was headed, which was not a direction that we wanted. And we were trying to figure out if we were going to scuttle the ship and build a new one, or if we were going to actually try and get this thing back on track. And I'm happy to say that in the 6 months that you've had an opportunity to lead, you've certainly got us back on track. The key is that you will hear from us that now we want to go full steam ahead. We really want to make sure that we're exploring all the different regions that we know are going to be important. And so I'm trying to stick with this analogy here of the boat, but certainly one in which there are going to be multiple docks that we're going to, link up to and be able to bring all kinds of folks on board to make it happen, right? And so over the course of time, we're expanding all of these opportunities, getting people to see different parts of the world because of the great work of WorkSource Montgomery. That's what's at stake. And so it's really important and imperative for us to make sure that we do everything that we can to continue to make sure that WorkSource Montgomery's mission and its overall goal of making sure that we connect people to jobs and make sure that those businesses out there have employees that they can bring into the workforce. Those two missions remain tantamount. And we know how important this is right now because of the COVID pandemic and what that's done to decimate our workforce. It is very interesting, and I know that I talked to you a little bit about this, but in our restaurant industry right now, our restaurants are struggling. And the interesting thing is they're struggling because they can't get folks to come and work. And it actually is then reducing the amount of income that they can have. They can't open as many tables or bus as many tables because they can't get folks back to work. And we know that there are folks out there that are still underemployed or unemployed. And so the mission that you have is a challenging one of how to connect those folks together to achieve that across all different spectrums. While I mentioned restaurants, it's happening all across the board. You talk to industries and they'll talk about how challenging it is that they just don't have enough people to work and to get themselves back on track like they were pre-pandemic. So your work is tough. It's daunting, but I know that a person like you who's already accomplished what you've accomplished in 6 months can certainly get it done. And we will be there to be partners with you to continue to help to make sure that we link you up with other folks in the community that also can help in this process. And together, I know that we'll make some great things happen. So really want to thank you, want to thank my co-chair, Councilmember Reamer, and all of the members of the EC and PHED committees for all of their great work. And of course, to you, Mr. Smith, thank you as always for all of your great work and continuing to get us back on track. Anybody else have any other things for the good of the body? Seeing and hearing none. All right, we will adjourn. Thank you very much. You guys take care. Make sure you stay safe. And we'll see
Thanks,
each other.
everybody.
Take care.